Welcome to the Holly Furtick YouTube channel. I wanted to give you a little sneak peek at something that we're doing at Elevation. It's a new mini-series with our small groups called Highlights, where I get together with a friend to discuss my husband's sermon from that week. We will talk in depth about our favorite highlights and discuss practical ways that we can apply them to our lives. Now, if you haven't seen the sermon from this week, go watch that on the Elevation Church YouTube channel. I'll put the link for you below so that you find the right one. Then come back here. For now, here's this week's highlights. Welcome to Highlights. It's our first week together, and I am so excited that you are here. What an incredible sermon we have to discuss today. Our pastor talked about think like a reaper. So today I have with me my guest, Chad Zolo, our online campus pastor. Hello.
Hey.
How you
Thanks for
doing?
having me. This is awesome.
Thanks.
Love it.
Thanks
Love it.
for being on.
Message is amazing.
Insane.
Amazing.
I mean, you know, one of the things that always amazes me about my husband is how he can take a passage of scripture that I have heard so many times,
yes.
John chapter 4, the woman at the well, and he can bring about just some of the most incredible insights that I never thought about before.
Yes. I mean, this sermon, honestly, when we heard it, we left church and me and my wife just started diving. I mean, we had our own highlights right after church because there's so much to unpack in everything that he was saying. And so think like a reaper. I mean, just that alone is a mind change for even just different seasons I'm in. So, I mean, I'm jumping into the conversation a little too early.
I mean, like the title was everything was wrapped up in this title, and it kind of like lends to this idea of where are you focused on your feelings? Because that's what Pastor Stephen, these are my notes from the sermon, and he talked about how feelings come, but they don't come first.
That's right.
Right? And so the idea of if you are a reaper, you are not focused on your feelings, you're focused on the outcome. And that's so challenging in so many areas of my life.
I mean, that's so hard. I mean, Pastor said a reaper begins with the end in mind. And I think that alone, it's an amazing shift in perspective because it is so easy to just constantly think about me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, how is this affecting me? What's the problem right now that I'm facing? Or, you know, we talk about sowing versus reaping. And oftentimes I think, at least for me, I always feel like I'm sowing. I never feel like I'm reaping. You know what I mean? It's like I'm giving. I mean, whether it be in my personal, in my kids, with kids, it's a huge one, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how am I possibly reaping here? It's like I'm just giving and giving and giving and giving. So even just the mind shift was something awesome.
I know. One of my favorite quotes from the sermon is when he talked about how God is often the most strategic when I am the most surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's this whole idea, right, of thinking like a reaper, because oftentimes in my own life, I come against something hard and I'm surprised by it. I don't know why I'm surprised by difficult situations that come up in my life because hard is part of life, but they always seem to surprise me and catch me off guard. But when you move through those seasons and then you take a look back, you realize that those are the places where God was really working in your life.
Well, and it becomes the challenge, right? So it's like, okay, the season that I'm in right now, you're right. Hindsight is 20/20, always. It's like you look back, oh man, I wish I knew at the time. So, you know, even just me and my wife, we were saying, okay, so where is the spot right now where we need to do something that actually you talked about in a previous study where you said something about, God, where are you at in this?
Yeah.
And we've used that a lot. Whatever situation we're finding ourselves in, it's God, where are you at in this situation? Help us just to see that it's not just, oh, woe is me right now, but God, what are you doing in and through this? And just trying to just believe that everything has a purpose. Everything is on purpose.
Yeah. Even the things that are hard.
Right. Yes.
Especially the things that are hard.
Yes.
Because hard work, I find in my life that hard work is where I gain strength.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the next hard thing comes, I'm stronger. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why God works that way, but he does. I love this quote. I want to share with you. Daquan from our UC campus said this: "It's time for me to realize that I'm a reaper And it's time to reap the harvest that I have been avoiding. It's time to take those calls I've been ignoring. It's time to get back to giving and not receiving. I thought that this like really encompassed the challenge and the call of the message.
That's
was it's time to take the focus off of me and the things that I'm surprised by and the things that are hard in my life. And it's time to look around and say, I don't want to just make everything about me. I don't want to just be about all of the things that I'm doing and all of the things that I'm giving. Where can I reap? And what am I doing to look forward to what God is trying to do in my life right now? What was one of your highlights, Chad?
Well, I'm thinking about that quote that we just talked about from Daquan, and I'm like, man, that falls so in line. It makes me think so much about a certain part in the message where Pastor was saying, open your eyes and see the people coming, and see what's happening around you.
Here's the scripture. I actually pulled that scripture. It's John 4:35. And Jesus said, don't you have a saying? It's still 4 months until harvest. I tell you, open your eyes and look at the fields. They are ripe for harvest.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, because it's interesting when he's telling them this, a couple verses earlier in verse 30, I believe, is when he's telling his disciples, or they're saying, the people are coming from the village, from Samaria. Right. So the woman went and told everybody about Jesus, and she's bringing the men. So Pastor talked about, like, isn't that crazy? Like, God used the thing, and it's the negative thing, but it's the thing that's drawing all of these people up. And so now his disciples are standing up there, and he's saying, like, open your eyes. Like, it's ripe for harvest. And I would just envision it's like, open your eyes and see all these Samaritans that are coming. Like, we're not even supposed to be here.
Right.
All these Samaritans are coming our way. Open our eyes. And he's saying, see the harvest. And you're like, that's not harvest to me. That's like scary to me. We avoid Samaria. Yeah. Like we're not even supposed to be around Samaritans. And you're saying, open your eyes. Look, there's a harvest, all this. So, I'm sitting there thinking, man, how often am I in a situation where maybe God would be saying, look at the harvest. Yeah. Look at what's happening. And I'm like, a harvest? Yeah. What are you, nuts? Right. Like, that feels like danger headed my way. Or I haven't seen, I've avoided that. It was what he said. He said, I've been avoiding this for so long. I've been avoiding making these phone calls or taking these calls, or I've been avoiding doing it. It's like, Samaria is a place I avoid. I don't go there. Nope, open your eyes. There's a harvest there. And that's a challenging thing to do. I mean, we've been saying it, but that's so much of, I think there might be hurt in that. How can there be help in that? Yeah. How can I see that? And so it's a challenging perspective. One specifically, I mean, we talk about this a lot, but even just with being a parent, it's like, it's hard to see where I'm reaping in that situation. Right. It's like, no, you feel like you're giving and giving and giving. Hindsight, you look back, oh God, cool. That's what you did there. Yeah. But in the moment, there's just a lot of different areas that I think the mature thing is to say, God, where are you in all of this? Yeah. What are you doing here?
Right. Open my eyes.
Yes.
What I wrote in my notes, I thought this was so powerful. Do you remember Pastor Stephen, like, he went into the crowd?
Yes.
And it was such an incredible moment of ministry. And he was talking about how we can get so focused on our hurt. And he said, this is what I wrote down, you can be so in your tears that you don't reap what you see. And he was talking about the passage of scripture where it said that they would reap songs of joy. And I think about how many times in my life I have been so focused on the pain and the hurt and this was wasn't at this part in the sermon, but he talked about how you can be so focused on your hurt that you don't even see the help that God has brought your way. And it just made me wonder, like, where in my life are there people? I mean, here you are, right? And you're sitting in a room full of people who are here to help you, to talk to you, to walk with you through whatever situation that you're going through. And sometimes we can be so focused on our tears and on our pain that we don't see the help that God has brought into our situation. Yes. We don't see that we are reaping. And we talked about this right before we started, that we're reaping. We're not just giving, but like we're reaping. There are so many people that have gone before us that have paved the way for us to have the experiences that we are having. And sometimes we can get so focused on our pain that we miss the joy that we can be reaping in the midst of the pain and sorrow.
I hope that was helpful for you. It's so important to talk about what God is speaking to you, to let the seed of His Word get planted in the soil of your heart. If you want to hear the full conversation and participate as well, join an Elevation eGroup. We have groups that meet in person and online, literally all over the world, and we would love to have you. To learn more, go to elevationchurch.cc and comment below. Let me know what some of your highlights were from this week's message. Thanks for joining me. Make sure you like and subscribe so that you'll get notified when next week's sermon discussion is available. And I'll see you back here next.